Hey everyone, in today's video, we're going to create a simple to-do app using Flask and PyMongo. So just to demo how this works, what I can do is I can say something like make YouTube video, and then I can add it and we see it appears on the list. And then once I'm done with this, I can click it, it gets crossed out. I can add new things like upload YouTube video and we see it's there and it's not crossed out. And of course, I can click it and it gets crossed out because I've completed it. Once I'm done with everything, I can either delete completed or delete all, and I can start over again. So this app is the one that we're going to build in this video. So before you can build this, you're going to need an Atlas account. So just go to MongoDB and you can sign up for Atlas, and your dashboard is going to look a little something like this. And in the video, I'll kind of walk you through the process that you need to go through to get things working so you can connect to this database and then create this to-do app that I have here. So let's get into the video. To get started, I'll create a virtual environment. And after activating, I need to install Flask, flask-pymongo, and python.env. So I'll wait for those to install. Should be pretty quick. Okay, so now that I have that, what I'll do is I'll make a directory called to-do app. This is where my app files will be. And then I'll also create a file called flask-env, and I'll use this to set the Flask app. So Flask app equals to-do app, and then also the environment. So we want development, so the debug mode is on. And then I can go into to-do app and start making things. So first, I'll make a directory called templates because I already have these template files here and static files. So I'll move these over. So make a directory. This should be to-do app and then static. And I'll move the templates over because it should be in to-do app here. Okay, so I have these two folders. So I'll move my starting files. So index is a template, so I'll put it in templates. And flatly and styles are both static files, so I'll put them in there, and I can delete the directory to-do because I don't need that anymore. So now I have these, and I'll also create the file dunder init inside of my directory. So dunder init, and I'll get started with everything there. So from Flask, import Flask, and I'll create the create app function. So create app, and I don't need to pass anything there because it's going to be pretty simple. And I'll instantiate the app, and I'll eventually return it. So I am using PyMongo, so I want to set up the extension. So what I need to do is first I need to create a file called extensions. So to-do app, then extensions. And then inside of here, I'll say from flask_pymongo, import pymongo. And then I can instantiate it. So I'll say mongo, pymongo. And then what I'll do is I'll import this in the dunder init. So from .extensions import mongo. And then what I'll do is I'll say mongo init app, and I'll pass in the app so we can use pymongo within my app. So now that I have all that done, let me get the database configuration. So I'll go over to the database, and I haven't created it yet. So I'll hit build a cluster, and I'll just select the free one over here, and I'll just use the default. I think everything here should work. So I'll hit create cluster, and it's going to take a moment, and it's going to create a cluster for us. And then once the cluster is created, we can create a database and a collection within that database to use. So I'll just wait for a second, and this should be done soon. Okay, so now that the cluster has been created, I can connect to it. So I'll click on connect here. And what I want to do is I want to choose connect your application. And here I'll have a driver. So the driver should be the same between each one, I believe. Let me see. But just to be sure, you can go to Python and then select version 3.11 or later for PyMongo. I'll copy this, and I'll eventually create like a user if you haven't already. But let me go back to the app, and in the configuration, I'll say app config, and the name of the configuration value is Mongo URI. So I'll paste this in here. So I have a username admin, And if you haven't created a user already, you can just go over to security on the left-hand side, database access, and add a new database user. So I have one called admin already, but you can create another one. Just create a username and a password. So I'll go back to the cluster, and in the configuration here for the admin user, the password will be, I think it's password1 for my admin user. And then the only thing I'm missing here is the database name. So I can go back here and I can go to collections, and I should have no databases, and I can say add my own data. For database name, I'll say MyDB, and for collection name, I'll say to-dos. I'll create that, and then I'll put MyDB as the DB name here. And then once you try to connect to this, you're going to need something called Python DSN. So pip install Python DSN, just so you can connect properly. And then that should be it. So now that I have the database connection set up, next thing I want to do is I want to load in the template that I have. So I'll create a route, and I'll create a route through creating a blueprint first. So what I'll do is I'll make a directory, and I'll call this main. So to-do app main. And in here, I'll put the code for my blueprint. So I only have one file because it's pretty simple, but I'll have a blueprint called main, and this is where I'll put my routes for this particular example. So inside of main, I'll create a file called, actually in a dunder init first. I won't use it for anything, just to make the directory work correctly. And then I'll create a file called routes.py. So this is where I'll put my routes. So in here, I'll say from Flask import blueprint I need. And what I'll do in here is I'll instantiate the blueprint, and I'll call this main. And you have to pass in dunder name here. And on the index, what I want to do is I want to return the template. So I'll create a route for the index, and I'm going to return a template. So I'll render template index.html, and I need to import render template up here. And if I start up my app, when I go to the home page, I should see everything working. If I don't, then we'll see if something's wrong. So let me go to the browser, open it up, and we have this error. So import flask j on line 1 of dunder init. So let's see. I think the autocomplete didn't work for me. So just flask there. And now if I run this again, we see DSN Python. So actually, I did that backwards when I installed it. It's not Python DSN, it's DSN Python. So let me go ahead and install that. So DSN Python, we need to connect to the database. So it's just installing that. And then if I do Flask run again and go back here, I see nothing was found. So the reason why nothing was found is because I need to register the blueprint on the app first. So what I'll do is I'll say, from main.routes import main. And then down here, I can register the blueprint. So app register blueprint main. So let's try this now. Refresh. And we see no module name main. And that's because I need a dot for this, I believe. Refresh this. Okay, so now we see the template has been loaded, and it doesn't have the styles yet, so I need to put the styles on here. So I'll go over to the template, index.html, and there are 2 CSS files that I need for this particular template, flatly and styles. And what I'll do is I'll change these to URL4. So URL4 static, and then file name is going to be flatly.min.css. And then I'll do something similar for this, but instead of flatly, it's going to be styles, and this isn't minified, so styles.css. So now if I try to refresh this, we get the working template in the files. So now let's bring this to life. So the first thing I want to do is I want to be able to add new to-do items to the database. So when I type something here and click add, it will allow me to add it to the database. Of course, it doesn't work yet because I haven't done anything, but what I want to do is make sure that this form and this add button send the information to my app, and then the app will add it to the database for me. So let me go back to the code, and here in the form action, what I want to do is I want to say URL 4 and then main. So main is a blueprint, and I'll create a route called add to do. Right? So it's going to post to that, and I believe I need an input name on here. Yeah, so I'll add an input. So I'll call this add to do as the name of the input, and then in the route I'll create a new route called add to do, just like that. And after I finish adding the to do, what I want to do is I want to redirect back to the index. So redirect in URL 4. This is URL underscore. So return redirect URL 4, and then this will be main.index. Okay. And then this will be for post requests only. So I'll add methods equals post here. And now what I want to do is I want to verify that I get the data. So what I'll do is I'll import request. And with that, I'll be able to see the data. So request.form.get, and then add to do. And let's say to do item equals that. And I'll just print this out. And I'll know it's working if I can see the thing that I printed. So let me go back to the app and refresh. And it'll say test to do item. And I'll hit add. And now if I go back, I see test to do item. So I know I'm getting the data correctly from the form. So now I just need to add this into the database. So what I need to do is first I need to import that Mongo object from extensions.py. So from .extensions import Mongo. And then I want to reference the to-dos collection. So I'll say to-dos collection. I'll put this outside of all the routes because it's going to be the same for each one. I'll say mongo.db.todos. So this allows me to get the to-dos collection that I created in the database on Atlas before. So by taking this to-dos collection, what I can do now is I can insert the data into the database. So to do that, it's pretty simple. I'll go over to add to do again, and I'll take this to-do item and I'm going to insert it. So what I'll do is I'll take that to-dos collection and I'll say insert one. I want to insert one document into the to-dos table, and it's going to have some text associated with it, and the text is going to be this to-do item. But in addition to having text, it's also going to have a status for complete or not. So if it's complete, it's going to be true, and if it hasn't been completed, it's going to be false. So it's always going to start off as false because once you add it, it hasn't been completed yet. And that's it. So once I do this, it should add the to-do item to the database with complete as false, and then redirect me to main.index. So let's try that now. I'll go over here and I'll say make a YouTube video. I'll click add, and I get this error. So it should be to-do app here so I can import correctly. And thinking about it, the collections should be in the route because of the app factory pattern. The database won't be initialized until inside of a route. If I do it outside of the route, it won't work. So I'll put the to-dos collection in here, and let's try that again. So I'll go back and we'll say make YouTube video as a to-do, hit add, and it returns. So let's go over to the database and refresh, and let's see if we can see the document in there. And we do. So we have a single document. We see make YouTube video and complete is false. And there's also an object ID associated with that document. So now what I want to do is I want to display the items that are in the database. So what I can do is inside of the index, I can look for all the to-do items in my database, and then I can pass them to the template and then render them inside of the template. So to do this, I'll reference that to-dos collection again. So I'll just take this and I'll add it here. And to do this is pretty simple. I'll do to-dos collection and then .find. And really, I don't have to pass any arguments because I want everything. And I'll say to-dos equals to-dos collections.find. and I can pass this to the template. So to-dos equals to-dos. And inside of the template here, what I want to do is I want to go down to the part where I can see the list here. So I have these three items that are hard-coded, and I'll loop over to-dos. So for to-do in to-dos, and I'll have the in4 down here. And I'll just add a list item with the to-do. So instead of create my new awesome website, this will be to-do.text, right? So now let's see if this works. If I go back here and refresh, I see make YouTube video is now at the top, and the others that are hard-coded are still there. So I'll remove them. And before I do, I just want to note that I have to-do completed here. This will represent a to-do item that is completed. So what I can do is I can add an if statement here to check to see if it's completed. So I can say if to-do dot completed. So if that's true, I want to add this class to-do completed and add an indif. And if it's false, then just don't add it. So it looks like the other ones. So let me delete these. And if I go back and refresh, we see just make YouTube video. So if I do another one like create to-do app and add it, it immediately appears because I add it to the database, and then I get redirected to the index, which will query the database for all the to-dos I have and display them. So I'll create one more. Let's say upload to YouTube, add this here, and now I have 3. So if you noticed before, I had the cross-out one for the completed ones, and the way I'm going to do that is by having links. So I'll make all these links, and then when I click on the link, it will complete them. So let me go over and make these links. So I'll add an anchor around them, and I'll move this up, and I'll just put the closing tag down there. And the URL for this, so URL 4, and then it's going to be main, and I'll call this complete to-do as the name of the function that I'll be using to complete the to-do items. And also what I want to do is I want to pass in the ID of the to-do that was completed. So I'll use the object ID. So I'll say OID is the object ID, and this is going to be equal to to-do dot underscore ID, right? So let's see if I can view the links, and it should fail because I don't have the function yet. So let me create the function. So main routes complete to do. It's going to take in an OID. So this will be variable. It's going to be a GET request, and I'll say complete to do. Needs to pass in that OID as a parameter, and then I can use it inside of here. And once I'm done, I'll redirect to the index again. So I won't actually complete it yet. I want to make sure that this works and I can see the OID. So I'll refresh this. And now these are links. If I hover over them, you might not be able to see this, but I can see the object IDs in the lower left-hand corner. If I click one, it will quickly go to the complete route, and then it will redirect me back to the index because it's not doing anything on complete. So what I want to do is I want to take that object ID that's being passed in. I want to get the document associated with it. I want to update the complete status to be true, and then I'll save it. So I'll go back to the code. And to do that, first I need to import something called the object ID class. And this is because it's going to take the string object ID and convert it to the actual object ID that MongoDB can work with. So I can't just pass the string to the query. I have to get the string and convert it to an object ID first. So to do that, I'll say from bson. So bson.object ID, I want to import object ID. So this is included once you install PyMongo, so you don't have to install anything else. I'll take this object ID and I'll go down to the complete to-do route. And what I'll do is I'll say to-do collections. So this will be the same. So mongo.db to-dos. And here what I'll do is I'll say to-dos collection find one, because I'm looking for the particular document associated with this object ID. And it's going to be underscore ID for the ID. And I need to take that object ID and then pass in the string object ID from the URL. So this will be the string. This gets converted to an actual object ID, and I can search on that. And I'll assign this to, let's say, to-do item. And then once I have the to-do item, I can manipulate it. So I'll say to-do item, and I'll reference the complete field, and I want to set this to true. So it's false by default in the beginning, and I want to change it to true. And I'll just take that to-dos collection and save that to-do item. And once I save, I can redirect back to the index. So let's go ahead and try that now. And remember that I have that class when a to-do item is complete. So if it is complete, it should have the line through it. So if I click on create to-do app, I'm expecting that this page will reload, and it will reload with a line through it. So I'll click it, and we see create to-do app is now crossed out. So if I go to the database and refresh and look at this a little closer, we see make YouTube video is false for complete, but create to-do app is true. And then upload to YouTube is false again. So if I click make YouTube video, it gets crossed out. And if I refresh this, I see make YouTube video now has complete as true. So now I'm able to both add new to-do items and complete them. So next what I want to do is I want to delete them. And I have one for delete completed and one for delete all. So let's work on delete completed first. So I'll create another route, and I'll call this delete completed. Doesn't have to take in anything. And delete completed is the name of the function. Once again, it's going to redirect back to the index once it's done doing everything that it does. And this one is pretty straightforward. What I want to do is get the collection first. And then with the collection, I need to delete everything. So I'll just say to-dos collection and then delete mini. And what I can do is I can pass in a query here. So the query will be complete and then true. So I'm going to look for everything that has complete as true in the database. It's going to return it and then delete it all in one statement here, and then redirect back to the index. So I just need to make a link for this. So I'll go back to the template and I'll look for that delete completed button. I'll change this to a link, and I'll add the actual location of the link. So href, and this will be URL for delete completed. And I'm working in the main blueprint. So this should be main.delete completed. So now if I go back to the app and refresh, I should have a link on delete completed. So as soon as I click this, I should no longer see make YouTube video and create to-do app because they have been completed already. So delete completed, and we see they go away. And here, if I refresh the database, I should only have one document left, and that is what I have. So let me add them back. So make YouTube video and create to-do app. So those are in my to-do list. Again, I'll just mark when it's complete. And now we can move on to the last functionality, which is delete all. So I'll start here. I'll create an anchor, and then the location for this will be URL for, and then main, let's say delete all is the name of the function that I'll create momentarily. Then I can go over to routes, and we have main routes, and then delete all. The name of the function should be the same. So delete all as the name of the function. And then I'm going to return back to the index again. And then I need to get the to-dos collection. And I'm going to use the to-dos collection to delete mini. And for this, because I want to delete everything in the collection, I'm just going to pass in an empty dictionary to represent an empty query. So give me everything. And since I get everything in return, it's going to delete everything. So I can save that. And that should be it for delete all. So let me refresh. So remember, delete completed only deleted ones that were completed. But if I click delete all, I'm hoping that everything gets deleted. So click delete all. We see everything is gone here. If I refresh the database, I should have no documents in the database. So we see that as true, no documents, and nothing here. So that's everything for this particular app, all the functionality for the To-Do app. It's very straightforward, of course. This was a idea given to me by people in the live stream that I did yesterday. So I couldn't figure out what video to make. So I asked people in the live stream. They said make something with Flask and PyMongo, and this is the app. So I'm sure I'll do more stuff with MongoDB and Flask in the future, and just look out for those videos. So if you have any questions about this app, feel free to leave a comment down below. If you want to get the code for this, I'll put a link in the description as well. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel already, please subscribe. So thank you for watching, and I will talk to you next time.